The second that olive-drab military transport truck rumbled down our quiet suburban street. Our neighbor lost her goddamn mind. "I'm calling the police right now, right now," Karen Whitaker screamed into her phone from the edge of our driveway, her voice cracking with righteous fury while her husband stood behind her filming like a hostage. "You'd think we just parked a tank on the White House lawn." All we were doing was unloading my husband Ryan's gear after 2 brutal years of deployment. But in Willow Creek Lane, where every blade of grass had to be exactly 2.5 inches and every mailbox had to match the approved colonial beige, that truck was apparently a declaration of war. My name's Tyler Brooks. I'm the guy who spent 3 weeks turning our new colonial into something that felt like home before Ryan got back. Fresh paint, pressure-washed sidewalks, even a tasteful welcome banner, nothing flashy. Just enough to say we belong here. We'd heard the whispers when we first moved in 6 weeks earlier. 2 men. Married. No kids. The kind of gossip that travels faster than the neighborhood next door app. Karen had already sent one of her signature anonymous letters about maintaining traditional family standards. I'd smiled, tossed it in the trash, and told Ryan over video call not to worry. I was used to people like her. I'd been slandered online before we even bought the house, old rumors from my last city about that gay guy causing trouble. I'd learned to stay quiet. Watch. And wait. Turns out, patience is a hell of a weapon. Karen came marching across the lawn in her signature pink velour tracksuit and fuzzy slippers like she was storming Normandy. Perfect blonde bob. Full face of makeup at 10 a.m. And that clipboard she carried like it was the 10 Commandments. She stopped exactly 1 inch from our property line. She knew the rules better than her own birthday. "Excuse me," she called out in that syrupy sweet voice that somehow managed to sound like a threat. "I'm Karen Whitaker, president of the Willow Creek HOA Compliance Committee. Section 7.2 clearly states, no commercial or industrial vehicles may be parked curbside for more than 15 minutes. Ryan hopped down from the truck cab in his uniform. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with that calm precision the Army drills into you. He gave her a polite nod. "Ma'am, we're just unloading. It'll be gone in under an hour. I just got home from deployment." Karen's eyes narrowed as she looked him up and down. She didn't even glance at me. "I don't care who you claim to be. This display is lowering property values. And another thing," she raised her voice so the neighbors peeking through their blinds could hear clearly. "I checked the registry. There are no active military personnel listed at this address. This smells like stolen valor to me. Pure fraud." I felt my stomach tighten. Ryan just tilted his head slightly, studying her the way you'd study a malfunctioning vending machine. "Stolen valor?" "That's right," Karen said, gaining confidence from her own performance. "I've been president here for 14 years. I know a costume when I see one. I've removed 3 families for less. The Thompsons? Gone. The Parkers? Gone. I am the authority on this street." Ryan's voice stayed low and steady. "Ma'am, you seem very concerned with authority. Ever seen what real authority looks like?" She laughed, that shrill, practiced laugh. "Honey, I have the county code enforcement officer on speed dial. I am the authority." Then she did it. Right there in our driveway. She dialed 911 and put it on speaker. "Yes. This is Karen Whitaker at 142 Willow Creek Lane. I have suspicious persons and what appears to be a stolen military vehicle. They're endangering the community." I stood there watching the red and blue lights eventually bounce off the truck's paint, thinking this woman had just brought SWAT-level drama to a homecoming. But Karen didn't know who she was dealing with. She couldn't possibly know. 20 minutes later, Two cruisers pulled up. Chief Harlan stepped out first, an older guy with tired eyes who looked like he'd seen every flavor of suburban nonsense. Karen practically sprinted toward him. "Thank God you're here." "Chief. These men are impersonating military personnel. That truck is a hazard. Check their IDs." Chief Harlan sighed and approached us. "Gentlemen. We got a disturbance call. Mind explaining the vehicle?" Ryan nodded calmly. "Of course. Sir." He reached into his back pocket. Slow and deliberate. And pulled out his wallet. The ID card caught the sunlight as he held it up. "Colonel Ryan Brooks. United States Army. The kind of rank that commands battalions and briefs generals." Chief Harlan's posture changed instantly. He straightened. Gave a crisp salute. His younger officer followed suit without hesitation. "Colonel. My apologies for the inconvenience. Welcome home." "Sir." Karen's face went from smug triumph to absolute frozen horror in real time. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. The clipboard actually trembled in her hands. She had just called the cops on a full bird colonel and accused him of being a fake in front of half the neighborhood. Ryan returned the salute casually. "No harm done, Chief. Though my neighbor does seem confused about private property rights and military transport regulations." Chief Harlan turned to Karen. All warmth gone. "Mrs. Whitaker. Did you knowingly file a false report involving stolen valor?" I thought," she stammered. Backing up a step. "You thought you could weaponize my officers against a decorated colonel?" The chief stepped closer. "One more call like this and I'll personally charge you with misuse of emergency services. Are we clear?" Karen nodded frantically, looking like she might throw up on her own fuzzy slippers. She turned and speed-walked back to her McMansion, slamming the door so hard the decorative wreath fell off. For 3 days. It was quiet. Too quiet. We unpacked. We laughed about it over takeout. But I caught her silhouette in the window at 2 a.m. Watching. Plotting. Then the notices started. 5 of them taped to our door one afternoon. Excessive noise, Ryan's morning run at 6:15 a.m. Unauthorized vehicle, my Honda was 2 inches over the curb line. Unapproved signage, the welcome banner. Landscaping violation, our boxwoods were allegedly 1 inch too tall. Trash receptacle visibility, because apparently the bin handles were facing the wrong direction. Over $400 in 1 day. And we weren't even official HOA members, our deed had a weird loophole from the previous owners. Karen didn't care. She weaponized every city ordinance and community standard she could find. The next week brought more. Wrong shade of porch light. Improper window treatments. Excessive pet noise, we don't even have a dog. She started an email chain excluding us, hinting that Ryan had anger issues from deployment and that our lifestyle was making families uncomfortable. Neighbors who used to wave now crossed the street. I sat on the edge of the bed one night, head in my hands. Maybe we should just sell. Ryan. It's not worth the war. He was brushing his teeth, looking at me in the mirror with those steady eyes. Tyler. I spent 2 years negotiating with people who wanted me dead. I'm not letting a woman in fuzzy slippers run us out of our own house with a clipboard. But she controls the narrative, I said. He smiled, small. Sharp. Dangerous. Then we changed the narrative. Ryan became a ghost. He documented everything. Karen's car blocking the fire hydrant, twice. Her dog crapping on the Smith's lawn and her pretending not to notice. Her own hedges. Gloriously over the height limit. but the real gold came when he dug into the public HOA financials. "Tyler," he said one night, turning the laptop toward me. "Look. The landscaping contract, $52,000 a year, went to a company owned by Karen's husband, Greg. The violation fines weren't going into any community fund. They funneled straight into an administrative processing account with Karen as the sole signer. In the last year alone, she'd collected over $28,000 in fines from the neighborhood while issuing zero to her inner circle. She wasn't just a Karen. She was running a tidy little extortion racket dressed up as neighborhood pride." Karen called an emergency HOA meeting for the following Tuesday. The agenda, addressing the ongoing threat at 142 Willow Creek Lane and authorizing legal action to protect property values. The community center was packed. Karen stood at the front in a crisp white blouse, projector ready, looking like she was about to deliver the State of the Union. Charts, photos of our violations, the works. "These individuals," she declared, pointing dramatically at us in the back, "think the rules don't apply to them. They've brought noise, disorder, and frankly, an element that undermines our family-friendly community. I move we approve funds to place a lien on their home." A few of her loyalists nodded. The room felt thick with tension. Ryan stood up slowly. His voice carried that quiet command tone that made people shut up and listen. "Madam President, before any vote, the bylaws allow me 5 minutes for rebuttal." Karen smirked. "Make it quick, Colonel." He walked to the front, plugged in a USB, and the projector lit up. "You talk about standards," Ryan said calmly. "Let's apply them equally." First slide, night vision video of Karen dragging her own trash bags and dumping them in our bins at 4 a.m. The room gasped. "Illegal dumping," Ryan said. Next, photo after photo of her car blocking the hydrant. Safety violation. Then, video of Greg using the HOA's riding mower on their private backyard. Misuse of community assets. Karen was turning a deep shade of purple. "This is doctored. This is harassment." Ryan's voice dropped. And finally the finances. The spreadsheet filled the screen. Highlighted payments to Greg's company. Transfers to the administrative account. The $28,000 in selective fines. Mrs. Whitaker has issued 19 fines to us in 16 days, Ryan told the silent room. In that same period. 0 to anyone else. Yet over the past year, she's collected nearly $30,000 that somehow ended up in an account only she controls. Chaos erupted. People were yelling. One woman stood up, "You fined me $250 for my daughter's basketball hoop and kept the money?" Another, "My mother's in assisted living because of the fees you pushed through." Karen backed away from the podium. Hands raised. "There's an explanation. It's a holding account, I was protecting the funds." The board members behind her looked like they'd seen their own funerals. They called for an immediate vote of no confidence. It was unanimous. Karen was stripped of her title on the spot. Accounts frozen pending audit. She looked at Ryan with pure venom. "You ruined everything. I built this community." Ryan met her eyes. "You didn't build it. You occupied it. And your occupation is over." She stormed out. But not before we heard her on the phone outside. Voice cracking, "I need to report corruption now. They're the corrupt ones." 2 weeks later. The neighborhood exhaled. Fines were refunded. The audits began. Karen became a ghost, curtains drawn. Rarely seen. Then the for sale sign went up next door to her. A young woman in her late 20s pulled up in a little SUV. Mia. Bubbly. Friendly. waving at everyone. She walked straight to Karen's door to introduce herself. We watched from our window as Karen opened the door, already pointing at Mia's flower pots and launching into a lecture. Mia just smiled, nodded, and typed something into her phone. A week later, Karen was back to her old tricks, notes on Mia's car, peeking over the fence. Then came Sunday afternoon. I was watering the lawn. Ryan was reading on the porch. Mia was in her backyard on speakerphone, voice carrying clearly. "Hi Dad, yeah. The house is perfect. But the neighbor, Mrs. Whitaker, she's exactly like you described, left 3 notes today and took more pictures." A deep, familiar voice rumbled back. "Keep documenting everything, sweetheart. I need a solid file. We're building the harassment case." I froze. I knew that voice. Chief Harlan. "Thanks, Dad. Love you. Love you too, kiddo. See you Sunday." Ryan and I exchanged a look. Mia was Chief Harlan's daughter. The same chief who had watched Karen melt down in our driveway. She wasn't just a new neighbor. She was a walking, smiling, law enforcement sanctioned surveillance operation. Mia glanced up at Karen's window, waved sweetly, and called out, "Beautiful day for keeping an eye on the neighborhood, isn't it, Mrs. Whitaker?" The curtains snapped shut. We haven't seen much of Karen since. She's on a repayment plan to avoid charges. The block party last weekend was the best one yet, everyone laughing. No fear. No clipboards. I looked over at Ryan flipping burgers and grinned. "You know what? I think I like this neighborhood now." He smiled back. Mission accomplished. So here's the question. Folks, did Karen get off too easy? Or is spending the rest of her life trapped in the very rules she weaponized against everyone else the most delicious justice of all? Who is really in the wrong here, the couple who just wanted to live in peace? Or the self-appointed queen who thought her HOA badge made her untouchable? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one.